If you're the kind of angler who's tired of fighting a motor that either stalls at the first headwind or drinks your battery faster than you can reel in a bite, you're probably looking for something reliable, easy to live with, and worth the money, not just a list of specs that sounds good on paper. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The big question that keeps most of us up at night is whether the motor you're about to buy will actually make your day on the water smoother, or whether you'll end up with a piece of equipment that takes more time to troubleshoot than it saves. That hesitation is real. I've seen too many first-time buyers stare at a wall of numbers: 55 pounds of thrust, 54-inch shaft, GPS integration, without a clear picture of what that means when you're actually out on the water. You might be worried about corrosion in saltwater, wondering if the battery will hold up for a full day of trolling, or if the remote will work reliably when you're standing on a moving deck. And with a price tag that's higher than a lot of entry-level motors, the risk of picking the wrong one feels like a gamble. So before you click Add to Cart, let's walk through the practical side of the Minn Kota Riptide PowerDrive and see exactly where the value lives. First off, this is a bow mount unit, which means you'll be installing it at the front of your boat rather than a transom mount. For boats that are a little longer, think 15 to 20 feet, this placement gives you better leverage and a more natural thrust line, especially when you're running a 54-inch shaft. If you've ever tried a short shaft on a bigger boat, you know the motor can feel like it's fighting the hull, pulling you off course or just not delivering enough push. The longer shaft on the Riptide clears the hull and gives the propeller clean water flow, so you actually feel that full 55-pound thrust without the motor fighting the boat's own wake. Now, the advanced GPS trolling system is the headline feature that separates this motor from a plain electric drive. In practice, it lets you plot a route on your boat's display, whether that's a figure eight around a reef, a straight line across a channel, or a slow drift along a drop-off, and the motor will follow that path automatically. Imagine you're after a school of snook that's holding a current line. You set a waypoint, start the motor, and it keeps you at the exact speed and distance you need without you having to constantly adjust the throttle. The system also stores waypoints, so on a multi-hour outing you can switch between patterns without remapping each time. That kind of automation isn't just a novelty, it literally lets you focus on the rod and reel, which is what most anglers want. The deploy assist lever is a small but surprisingly useful piece of engineering. Getting a bow mount motor in and out of the water can be a two-handed job, especially when you're on a slick deck or dealing with a windy day. The lever gives you a mechanical advantage, so you can lower the motor with one hand, lock it in place, and know it won't bounce back when you hit a wave. In real-world use, that means less fatigue on those early morning trips when you're already lugging a cooler, a tackle box, and maybe a couple of chairs. The lever also has a safety lock, so you don't have to worry about the motor unintentionally dropping if you bump the bow. Saltwater corrosion is another big concern for anyone who spends time on the coast or in estuaries. Minn Kota has applied a marine-grade protective coating to the motor housing and internal components. In my own experience with similar motors, that coating can make the difference between a unit that needs a full overhaul after a season and one that stays functional for years. You'll still want to rinse the motor with fresh water after a full day out, but you won't be constantly fighting rust on the shaft or the control housing. Customizable control is where the Mircro remote shines. It's a pocket-sized device you can clip to a belt or keep in a glove compartment. The remote lets you adjust speed, engage the GPS track, and even set a stop-and-go mode for those moments when you're waiting for a bite and want the motor to pause without you having to manually pull the throttle. The remote is small enough that it doesn't get in the way, yet the buttons have enough travel that you can operate them while the boat is rolling. One practical downside is that the remote doesn't have a built-in screen, so you're still relying on the boat's main display for route details. If you're used to a full-color touchscreen on your motor, there's a bit of a learning curve, but most anglers adapt quickly. Efficient power management is baked into the Riptide's firmware. The motor monitors battery draw and